Hello and welcome to this video. This is part 2 of work folder sync. So in part 1 I've demonstrated how to install the roles and services that are required to set up work folders in Windows Server 2019. In this part 2 I'm going to configure now the Iis, which is I'll have to set up a self-signing certificate and bind a couple of ports to the certificate so that work folder can use the certificate to connect to the work folder share and sync the data between the local device and the remote device, which is the data on the server. So the first thing that we have to do is to go to the Iis Manager, and to do that I just right click on the server that's running the Iis service and go to the manager. And this is my Iis, or Internet Information Server. I have a default first site there. So the first thing that I need to do is to go ahead and create a self-signing certificate. So if I click on the name of my server here, I see this this icon that says server certificate. I can double click on that, and here I'm going to go ahead and create a self-signed certificate. I choose that option and I give it a name. So this name can can have a reference to what I want to use the certificate for. So I can pretty much name it anything. I'm going to call it work folder. Like that, and I'll leave it as personal. That's the default. Click on OK, and it's gonna go ahead and create that self-signing certificate for me. The next thing that I need to do is to create some bindings. So if I go to the default website, on the right hand here I have bindings. So I click on bindings, and I now need to add port 443, which is the HTTPS, or the secure connection, HTTPS here, and host name will be the full name of my server. So the name of my server here is Server2019. Let's just verify that by going to the dashboard, local service. So I need to put this entire name, the fully qualified domain name. So srvr2019-g1.lab.local. So srvr2019-g1.lab.local. Okay, and the SSL certificate that I'm going to use, it's currently not selected, so I need to select work folder, and the port is 443. That's the default port for HTTPS connection. Verify that my name is correct. So this part is the name of my Active Directory domain. That's the name of my server. Click on OK. And now I'm binding these two ports to this certificate. Click on OK. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the site. And I'm going to go ahead and start it again for those changes to take effect. Now the next part of this lab here is to add the certificate as a trusted certificate in my root certificate. Okay, so we'll now go ahead and click on start run, or right click on start, click and run, and we'll type MMC to open the Microsoft Management Console. Click on open, and we will see this window pop up here. So next thing we'll have to do is to click on file and click on add remove snap-ins, and we will select certificates here. Click on add, and then select computer account. Click on next, and leave it as local computer. Click on finish, and click on OK. And now we see the certificates is listed there. Expand certificates, then go to trusted root certificate authorities here, then click on certificates, and here we should see an entry for the certificate that we just created, and it's called server2019 g1.lab.local. That's this one here that's highlighted. Next, we're going to right click on it and go to all task export. Now let's have a look at the properties and see what's in there. This is a friendly name that we have assigned to the folder when we were creating the certificate. That's just called work folder. So now we're going to right click on it and go to all task and export. We're going to now export this certificate and place it in a location on the network that is accessible to all the computers. So here we're given an option to export with the private key or do not export with private key. So I'm going to leave that option as the default. Actually, I have to choose the option which says yes, export the private keys, and then I'm going to click next, and I'll leave this as the default. Include all certificates in the certification path if possible, and enable certification privacy. Click on next, and I'm going to enable a password. I'm going to put a fancy password, and this is just the encryption level. Higher encryption is the AES 256. I'm going to leave it as the triple des SHA-1 as a default. Click on next, and here I'm going to give it a name. Now I need to store this certificate on the network so that it can be easily accessible by all other computers that need to access it. So I'm going to click and browse, and I'm going to go to my domain controller here. And I'll put it in a net logon folder. Now I can you can choose to save it in any share that is accessible on the network. I'm going to select net logon, and then I'll give it a name. I'll call it work folder cert. Just that. Okay, so I click on save, and that should save it to the net logon folder with this name here. Click on next, click on finish, and the export was successful. So that concludes setting up the self-signed certificate and binding the port 443 and port 80 to the certificate that we're going to use, and exporting the self-signed certificate from the trusted root certificate to a location on the network. The next part now of this lab is the third part, where I will access the workstation, which is just a local Windows 10 client computer that's connected to this domain, and the next part will be done on the Windows 10 computer, where I access and set up the work folder on that computer.